Good morning. Welcome to the SDG stage, the SDG studio. My name is Xavi Longan. I'm a program specialist with the UN SDG Action Campaign. And I have the pleasure of welcoming to the SDG studio Stefania Giannini, UNESCO Assistant Director General for Education.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for this invitation.
So, Ms. Giannini, drawing on your experience as former Minister for Education in Italy and Senator of the Italian Republic, how do you see the role of education in increasing and improving opportunities for women, particularly in leadership positions?
Well, let me first try to summarize what happens all over the world when girls and women are not educated or when they have no complete education. They remain, for sure, the weakest part of society. They are vulnerable to discrimination, to not have the opportunity to be empowered. They remain without a critical approach and the possibility to decide for themselves the best for their life. So this is absolutely a great and in some way the greatest obstacle for building a better society. So I should summarize saying that education first. You know that in our house at UNESCO we have, I should say, a holistic, humanistic approach to education. That means that our framework is education as a basic, fundamental human right. And I should say that it's not simply one of the key factors, it's the key factor to make a better society. And girls and women are part of the process. They should become, yes, you mentioned the issue of leaderships, it is something else. After basic primary education, after the question of access, after the question of offering all children everywhere in the world, girls and boys, quality education, to reach also this objective, which means, as we told about this issue some years ago, breaking the glass ceiling, we have to do something else. I think we have to offer role models. I think that very many powerful and engaged women in the world in very high position do represent a very important and stimulating inspiration for girls. But first of all, we have to reaffirm education as a basic human right. That's what we are trying to do in our house. That's what we are trying to do by means of very many specific projects on field.
Thank you very much. You were recently appointed UNESCO Assistant Director General for Education, so congratulations on your appointment.
Thanks a lot.
Now, from this position that you hold now, how do you plan to use this role, your new position, as a global leader for education, in order to impact the lives of women positively, and especially the most disadvantaged in remote corners of the world?
Well, I'm quite new ADG for education. I should say that I immediately realized to what extent that this position is a very challenging and demanding one. I see really a lot of potential. Also considering the great work UNESCO has already did through the years, you know, gender equality and gender equality in education has been our priority since more than 10 years. But if you ask me to summarize our plan, our action plan now, I should say we want to promote education, gender equality in, to, and through education. That means in education trying to change a bit the models and way of teaching and learning in the process, because, you know, a lot of textbooks, also at national level, you can verify. I've been a minister in my country, you know, Italy is in the so-called advanced countries part of the world. And despite of that, you can see also in textbooks, you have a lot of gaps about gender sensibility. So in education, we have to change the model. We have to go inside the schools. We have to change in classroom. To education now, oh yes, it's one of the basic objectives also in the 2030 framework agenda, because to give all over the world children, girls and boys, I should say both, girls and boys, access to quality education is one of our priorities, and we have very many specific projects. I want to mention one which is maybe one of the most successful, the Better Life, Better Future Partnership for Girls' Education. And we covered more than 25 countries, more in the sub-Saharan area, but also in other parts of the world. And yes, I thought, last but really not least, through education, that means to have a very clear mind of contents, of outcomes of learning process, of the very important link between the education world and the employment, the market world, because also for girls, also for women, it's so important to have, for instance, a more disseminated culture of STEM. You know, in also advanced countries, also in the European Union, you don't have a so high percentage of young ladies or young women who choose science, engineering, maths, and this kind of subject, which is one of the most important key factors to improve the employment market and also to have development in a very sustainable way. So, 3 main pillars, which means also to have a strong, louder advocacy for education all over the world.
No, absolutely, and I think it's important what you mentioned about education being a critical enabler for the 2030 agenda, and specifically for the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. I think that's critical. So based on your experience in both academia and politics, what measures do you feel should be implemented to better protect women and girls? And let me ask you specifically, I mean, what sort of actions would you suggest and propose to combat gender violence, to improve education of women and girls, and to contribute to the broader SDG agenda?
Oh yes, you're referring to violence against women, which is still dramatically a key issue also in advanced countries everywhere in the world. I see 2 different dimensions, 2 levels of actions. The first one is preventing, maybe the closest to our mission. Preventing means all the issues we touched here today about changing the educational approach to this kind of issues, but it also means, in my opinion, try to change a bit the environment outside the schools, outside the classroom, because when we find violence, which just can be both in a physical way or in an indirect modality of aggressive, speaking, for instance, about women or against women, you have to do with a cultural problem. So when we have to change the culture, when you have to change mentality, it's a long-term process. You can start from the primary school, as we said, but we also to involve boys, men, and the family. You have to reach the family. And this is the preventing side of the coin, which is the most, in my opinion, challenging one. The second one, of course, I will also experience personally in the parliament of my country, and as a minister too, we can try to obtain, to acquire some more short-term results by law. So you can put in a law some protection instruments that really face directly the issue of violence against women. We did something like this in Italy, very many European countries, and it's also a question of try to talk about this issue, not to shine, and also to try women to say more about their bad experiences, which is, this is another very, very important issue we have to, and to try to elicitate.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Just one final question. It's actually almost a favor. I have a 13-year-old daughter. So I would ask you, what would you say to her if she wants to engage with these efforts that you've been describing, including improving education, combating gender-based violence, contributing to the SDGs? What would you say to her and to youth in general that want to engage in this effort and contribute to this effort?
Well, it's a very simple message. I think I should send not simply to a younger, but also I'm mother of two sons, a bit older than yours. But I also get this message: try to follow your vocation, try to follow your sentiment, try to follow your heart. It's not a rhetoric message. It's something which has to do with try to find the freedom to express yourself. And to do that, yes, we have to work about it at different levels of responsibility. I have one at global level now. I had many of you at different levels in different positions, but I think that we must help young people to find this space of freedom through knowledge and education, because if you don't acquire from the very, very early childhood self-consciousness, awareness of the context you are living on, and also the opportunity to see inside your soul and try to understand which is the main objective of your life, it's getting more and more difficult to become how can I say, a fully potential express adult in their life. And this is true for boys and girls, but yes, we are here talking about girls' education, so to your girl, I should say like this: feel how you do as you feel, right?
Yeah. That's very helpful, thank you. I'll be taking this home. Stefania Giannini, UNESCO Assistant Director General for Education, thank you very much.
Thank you to all of you.